Ding dong YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Jobless Coder, and this week I started CBT Therapy, that stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. And basically what that is all of those group therapy session things that you see in literally every TV show, where they all get around in a circle and talk about how miserable their life is, and somehow it's supposed to help their mental health.
I know you're in pain.
No, you know what? Why I'm here in the first place is to sell you meth. You're nothing to me but customers.
But if you've ever wondered what any of those are actually like, well, I'm going to be starting this video series over the next 7 weeks where I put out a video each week describing my experience from that week. So if you're considering taking some sort of group therapy, or you were genuinely curious as to what it's actually like in the real world, then make sure to follow this channel or click the bell so you get the notifications, and each week I'll try to put out another video talking about the cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT therapy. Now, I had a feeling that there was a lot more to it than just sitting around in a circle and talking about how miserable your life is. And there's different forms of group therapy for drug addictions, for alcohol addictions. They've got Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step program, things like that. But this is dealing more specifically with mental diseases and mental illnesses, and I have OCD and depression and a laundry list of other things. And so I'm going to see whether or not this actually helps, what it is like, what it entails, what you have to do, and I hope to share as much as I can with you guys. Now, clearly, there's confidentiality things. I'm not going to talk about anything personal that I said in the session, even though I will be sharing, and I have shared personal details on other videos, and I probably will do in the future. I'm not going to be talking about anybody personally in the group. If somebody shares some sad sob story, I'm not going to share that because there's confidentiality agreements. But I can talk about the things that we do, the things that we talk about. It's kind of like a class in a way. Like you're taking a course, you're taking some kind of class, and so I want to be able to share with you some of those details. And this way, maybe you can help to decide whether or not it's right for you. I don't even know whether or not it's right for me yet because I just started. So, when you come in, you fill out some questionnaire on how you're feeling for the day, and then we were explained that at the end of the 7 weeks we'll fill out another one, and it's all done anonymously, but it's sent to the government because they want to be able to assess whether or not programs like this actually work. So they're going to look at your answers to the questions beforehand and afterhand, and they assume that that is because it would make a difference. Now, maybe it doesn't make a difference. Maybe you just had a bad day. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and so you answer, I strongly dislike this for everything, and then you feel really good, not because of the therapy, but you just feel really good on the last day, and you answer positive for it. That's of course going to create a bias in the experiment. It is an experiment after all. It's an experiment in emotional development, in changing the brain and how you think. And because of that, the very first thing that we did was watch a video from another YouTube channel that I'm a big fan of, actually, Smarter Every Day with Dustin. We watched the video about his backwards bike, and if you haven't seen that video, I strongly recommend you to go check it out. I'll link it in the description below. But basically, he got some welders to build a custom bike, and the only difference was if you push the handlebars to the left, the wheel goes to the right. If you push the handlebars to the right, the wheel goes to the left, and so it's backwards. And he tried riding it, and he couldn't do it, even though he'd been riding a bike for 25 years. And the video was shown to try and prove a point that your thinking is set into a rigid pattern that you develop and learn over time, but it can be changed because after lots of practicing and training on the backwards bike, he was able to ride it. So it's to try and prove to you that even if you think you can't change, it can be done. So then after that video, we had an introduction session where everybody goes around the group circle and tells their name, and we had this mood chart, and it kind of branches out. So in the center, there's basic moods like happy, sad, embarrassed, things like that. And then it goes to like a second level out where it's like, okay, well, you can have a happy emotion, but what type of emotion is it? Is it happy because because you're joyful? Is it happy because you're enthusiastic? And then from there, it'll branch out to a different type of emotion. So we got this mood wheel that we're going to be using quite a bit throughout the therapy session. And basically, we had to pick one emotion that began with our first name. And for some people, there was only one emotion on the entire thing that has the same letter as their first name, so that's the emotion they went with. And then we had a bit of introduction about what cognitive behavioral therapy actually is. Now, CBT is a specific type of thinking pattern. CBT is not necessarily the group therapy. The group therapy is to help us learn and understand CBT, but basically it comes down to two things. It comes down to mindfulness, which is living in the moment, like whatever happened in the past, whatever happens in the future, don't worry about that. Mindfulness is living in the moment and being able to recognize the emotions and how we feel about something, but without actually acting on it. The other part of CBT is being able to change your thinking in a way that is more balanced over time. So you do have bad things happen to you, but you kind of disregard that. You have good things happen to you, and so it balances it out. Alright, so after that, we had an exercise where a plate of strawberries was passed around the table, and they were cut in half, and so we each took a strawberry. It was kind of a bit like communion when you're in church, and they pass around the wafers and the drink and the whatever wine. You're drinking the blood of Christ and eating his body type of thing. So if we passed the plate around, everybody took a strawberry, and we put it on a napkin, and then we did something known as mindfulness eating. And instead of just eating the strawberry, we had to examine it for a couple minutes, like really in detail, up close, before we even put it in our mouth. And we were told to imagine this is the first time you've ever seen this piece of fruit. And it was kind of interesting to think of, in a way, what the very first humans was like when they encountered different types of foods, different things. You don't even know. Is it poisonous? Is it going to kill you if you eat it? Like looking at it, smelling it, feeling it. Imagine being the first man to ever look at a strawberry and you have no idea what it is. That was a really weird sensation, actually. It reminded me in a way of the first time I tried smoking cannabis.
Smoke weed every day.
Now, full disclosure, I live in Canada. It's totally legal here now. I'm not in America, where one of the states it's still illegal, so I smoked it legally. But the first time I did smoke weed, my friend told me, he said to me, if you have any food with you, now's the time to try it. I thought, well, what's the big deal? I had a bag of ketchup potato chips with me. It's like, oh, I've eaten ketchup chips my whole life. And so I reached into the bag and pulled out a chip, and instantly, like that, I knew there was something different going on in my brain, because I'd never ever felt a chip like I had this before. I was like, I could feel each and every individual salt particle on the chip, and I could perceive them individually. And I was absolutely taken back by this. You think and you realize how much detail is actually in a potato chip. And it's bizarre because all of the atoms of the potato chip, all the salt particles on the surface of the potato chip have been there the whole time, and you never even pay attention to or recognize that. And then I put it in my mouth, and again, it was like, holy crap, you can perceive all of this flavor and the texture, and all of this stuff that's been there the whole damn time, and you never ever notice it. And that's what mindfulness is about, is noticing things that you never really pay attention to. You just kind of gloss over it. And so eating this strawberry, doing the mindfulness eating activity, reminded me in a way of how I felt the first time I tried food when I was high. That made me think that a large part of what this cognitive behavioral therapy is focused on is getting you to experience and understand those sensations without the high, without the smoking part. Essentially, smoking weed is a shortcut to those experiences. You smoke, you get high, and then you experience something new. And from the way I perceive it, this cognitive behavioral therapy is meant to allow you to have those experiences, notice those things that you've never paid attention to in your entire life, but without the high. In a way, I think of it almost like a meditation type of thing. I believe that when you have some Buddhist, whatever priest that's in deep, deep, deep meditation, they have willfully put themselves into a high. So they have all the same experiences that somebody does if they just take the shortcut by smoking weed, but they've done it willfully through meditation. And I think that's what CBT is all about, is a willful meditation on the moment to experience things that you've never noticed before. So then after that, we were given our first homework assignment for the week, which is whenever we go and we eat food over the next week, we're supposed to try our best to do this mindfulness eating. Pay attention to the food, smell it, look at it very closely in detail, pretend it's the first time you've ever seen this piece of food before you eat it, and see how that changes your thinking about the food when you've actually taken a bite. And the first thing I thought about when I thought about this was binge eating. A lot of people, when they get stressed out, they binge eat and they just eat bags of chips and chocolate bars and candy, all sorts of things, and they shove it in their mouth as fast as they possibly can. But is that to experience the sensation of having chocolate in your mouth? Because if the experience is all you need to relax, then you don't have to eat a chocolate bar or 3 or 10 to actually feel better. In which case, now you're eating a bunch of junk food and your health has gone out the window. But you could probably do the exact same with a single piece of chocolate if you did the mindfulness eating. Because instead of binge eating chocolate after chocolate after chocolate, you could just take one piece of chocolate and experience it and look at it and smell it and taste it. And then that would be enough to calm you down. And now instead of eating a ton of chocolate, you've only had one. So then after that, we went on and we talked a bit more about the therapy and a bit of the housekeeping rules and things of that nature. And then we were given a couple different examples. There was 2 or 3 different examples where we had to write down the things that we would think in that example, the things that we would do in that example, the things that we would say. So one of them was like, you're in the grocery store and this woman runs into you with her cart. How would you feel? What would you think? What would you say? And then after that, there was another example that was very, very relevant to my own personal experience. It was you're driving along, there's no cell service, and you're running out of gas. And if you've seen my other video about my move back home, my move from hell, that was literally word for word exactly what I had to go through. So I know from personal experience how I felt, how I thought, the things that I said and I did, and I realized that I got really anxious. I got a little bit scared that I would run out of fuel in the dead of night in Canadian winter in the middle of nowhere where nobody knew where I was. Anxiety leads to panic. Panic leads to stress, and stress causes you to make stupid choices. That's how my vehicle ended up stuck on the ice when I pulled into a gas station that wasn't even open. But when you're stressed and you have anxiety and you're freaking out and you're a little bit scared, you do stupid things. Does that excuse the stupid choices? No, but it does explain why you make stupid choices. And then there was another example about helping an old woman cross the street and she hits you with her purse. And how would you feel? What would you say? What would you do? And then after that, it was basically the end of the session. So the session runs for 6 weeks, and then there's one final week of therapy where we go over and review everything that we've basically covered. So this is my experience from the first week. I'm going to be putting out another video sometime next week. And if you want to see more, if you want to follow this story of how this group therapy is supposed to work, how it actually helps, then follow the channel and make sure to click the bell icon to get notifications. Other than that, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Smoke weed every day.